Hey guys, welcome back to The Mind of Brandon, and welcome back to another Sunday of Science and Spirituality. So, not too long ago, the YouTube user Modern Day Hysteria uploaded a video titled Response to Dawkins' Newest Terrible Anti-Religion Video, which I responded to with my own video titled Me versus Modern Day Hysteria versus Richard Dawkins versus William Lane Craig. And Modern Day Hysteria recently uploaded a response to part of that video titled Atheism's Best Kept Secret, Response to the Mind of Brandon. So let's go ahead and have a look at his response.
Notice he said, look, James is right. An atheist called out Dawkins for refusing to debate Craig, but then Dawkins eventually did debate Craig since then. And this might work, except it's just factually wrong, because Craig and Dawkins briefly crossed swords in a group debate on whether the universe has meaning. But more importantly, the atheist Daniel Kame, who's a professor that I mentioned in my prior video, who called out Dawkins for being a coward for not debating William Lane Craig, did so after the Craig-Dawkins group debate on whether or not the universe has meaning. So it went like this. On January 2011, the group debate featuring both Craig and Dawkins on whether or not the universe has meaning occurred. Then 11 months later, on October of 2011, the atheist Daniel Kame criticized Dawkins for not debating Craig on theism versus atheism.
Actually, it turns out that there's some things wrong with what James just said. First off, what I actually said was this. I'm aware that somewhere along the way Richard Dawkins refused to debate William Lane Craig, but somewhere else along the way since then, he has actually debated William Lane Craig. Notice how I said absolutely nothing about this atheist guy Daniel Kame calling out Richard Dawkins. In fact, let's listen to the part I was responding to and see if James even talks about it.
I'm amazed at Dawkins' kind of overconfidence here, because for years he's been ducking a debate with William Lane Craig. And everybody knows in the apologetics world, whether they're Christians or atheists, that Craig is kind of the goose that laid the golden egg in apologetics debates, like verbal debates. Also, other atheists such as Sam Harris or Christopher Hitchens have both talked about how Craig is a very respected debater.
My brothers and sisters and co-thinkers in the unbelieving community take it very seriously.
The one Christian apologist who seems to put the fear of God into many of my fellow atheists.
So it might be a little bit easier to take Dawkins' word that these arguments for religion or God have failed, except he refuses to debate the most competent Christian debater.
So that's interesting. Even James didn't say anything there about this atheist guy Daniel Kame calling out Richard Dawkins. Now, in that part where James was just talking, he did briefly flash up on the screen an article by Daniel Kame, in which Daniel Kame was in fact calling out Dawkins for refusing to debate William Lane Craig. But the whole point that James was communicating wasn't that, look guys, atheist guy Daniel Kame is calling out Richard Dawkins. No, the point he was communicating is just simply the fact that Dawkins was ducking a debate with William Lane Craig. So hopefully this helps to clarify what I was actually responding to, as well as to clarify what I actually said versus what James is saying that I said.
Notice he said, look, James is right. An atheist called out Dawkins for refusing to debate Craig, but then Dawkins eventually did debate Craig since then.
I'm aware that somewhere along the way Richard Dawkins refused to debate William Lane Craig, but somewhere else along the way since then, he has actually debated William Lane Craig. Yeah, pointing out that Dawkins did eventually debate Craig sometime after refusing to debate him is not the same thing as saying that he debated him sometime after this atheist guy Daniel Kame called out Richard Dawkins. It's not the same thing. That being established, let's look at an old video where Dawkins is talking about why he refused to debate William Lane Craig.
Professor Dawkins, you are arguably the world's leading apologist for atheism, and you have been invited on several occasions by arguably the world's leading Christian academic apologist, Dr. William Lane Craig, to engage in debate. I would like to know why this is not an example of the new atheists doing what Lord Harries has described as avoiding the strongest possible arguments from the opposition.
Okay,
Thank you.
that's a very straight question. Over here now.
I have always said when invited to do debates that I will be happy to debate a bishop, a cardinal, a pope, an archbishop. Indeed, I have done both. But that I don't take on creationists, and I don't take on people whose only claim to fame is that they are professional debaters. They've got to have something more than that. I'm busy.
Did you guys notice the date on that? Oh yeah, 2009, before the 2011 debate. So my actual point that somewhere along the way Dawkins refused to debate Craig, but somewhere else along the way since then he has actually debated William Lane Craig, that point is actually accurate. So it turns out that as of yet, James has not actually addressed the actual point that I was making. Hasn't said whether he agrees with it, whether he disagrees with it. Instead, he just kind of misrepresented the situation, creating a straw man argument and going up against that instead of going up against the actual point that I was actually making. And then, even though James was originally just critiquing Dawkins for refusing to debate Craig with no mention of any specific debate topic, he goes on to nitpick the debate topic that was chosen. So it seemed like James was basically nitpicking the fact that the debate topic was not on theism versus atheism. The actual debate topic, of course, was on whether or not the universe has a purpose. And so one of the things that people talked about during this debate is, did the universe get purposefully created by a creator God, or did it come about naturally and purposelessly without any help from a creator God? Oh wait, that's basically theism versus atheism, isn't it?
In today's debate, we've been asked to discuss not whether God exists, but whether the universe has a purpose. And the answer to that question is, it all depends. If God does not exist, then the universe has no purpose. If God does exist, then the universe has a purpose. On this question, there need be no dispute between the theist and the atheist. I think we can all agree with those two contentions as I've stated them.
You do not need to resort to the idea of a designer. That was an astonishing intellectual achievement. Something as complicated as an eye, something as complicated as a heart, even a brain. Who would have thought that by the laws of physics, unaided, unviolated, just filtered through this brilliant process of natural selection, evolution by natural selection, that the blind laws of physics could produce the illusion of design as complicated and as persuasive as we see in the living world.
Have the two sides presented arguments and evidence for or against the existence of God? Now, so far as I can see, all I've heard from the atheist side is the argument from evil, which I answered and has yet to be replied to. We heard an argument from evolutionary development, but that obviously doesn't prove that God is not the supervisor who created life through evolution. That doesn't in any way prove atheism. I haven't seen any other argument for atheism in tonight's debate. So while we can agree that if God does not exist, life has no purpose, we've not heard any good or compelling evidence for the antecedent of that conditional, that God does not exist. By contrast, I think we've heard 10 arguments that I list for the existence of God. The argument from why anything exists rather than nothing, the argument from the beginning of the universe, the argument from the fine-tuning of the universe for life, the argument from objective moral values, the argument from the possibility of God's existence, David Wolpe's argument from the comprehensibility of the universe, number 8, the argument from the law-like structure of the universe, number 9, Doug Guyvet's argument from the nature of existential choice, and finally, number 10, the very nature of human beings as capable of asking questions of purpose.
William Lane Craig seemed to think that it would be so intolerable, so disagreeable, that we are doomed to death, that the universe is doomed to death. Somehow playing on the heartstrings, playing on the emotions. It's not nice to think that we're all going to die. It's not nice to think that the universe is going to die a heat death and that everything is going to come to an end. It's not nice to think that everything is meaningless. And therefore, somehow that must prove that there is purpose in the universe, that there is some sort of top-down supervising God.
The rational arguments tonight all have supported theism.
Of course, there is mystery. There is enormous mystery in the universe, and that's what science is working on. To respond to that mystery by saying God did it, to respond to that mystery by saying, oh, there's just some divine designer who figured it all out, that is lazy. We shall not resort to lazy, second-rate explanations that just lie down under the problem and say, God did it.
Time out.
Now, those are just a few of the clips that prove my point. Originally, I included like 20 minutes worth, but I decided that was a little excessive. And those 20 minutes, that was 20 minutes of specifically Dawkins and Craig. You got to keep in mind, there were other people on this debate that were getting in on that. Actually, that's another thing that James was nitpicking about this debate. The fact that there were other people in this debate apart from Dick Dawkins and Bill Craig, right? It wasn't a one-on-one debate. I'm just like, wait, what? What does that matter? Oh no, there's other people there. What?
And this brings us to atheism's best kept secret. It's what atheists don't want you to know, is they love to read some, and then they can go and pick off some of the Christians who don't read as much and they're not as familiar and able to defend their faith. And a lot of atheists don't want you to know that in reality, when you get these well-trained Christians, you see oftentimes that skeptics, like these atheists who oftentimes will, like I said, pick off the Christians who don't read as much, all of a sudden you see, whoa, a lot of them get dominated by these Christians who are well-read.
Well, I sure hope you're not insinuating that I just got dominated by a well-read Christian, because all you did is create a straw man argument, go after that instead of addressing my actual point, misconstrue the debate between Dick Dawkins and Bill Craig, and nitpick it for not being a one-on-one debate. But hey, to err is human. James, I forgive you, right? For any Christians watching who might be getting mad at James for like, trying to deceive you or something like that, right? Just remember that forgiving James is precisely what Jesus would do, right? Judge not, lest ye be judged. Let he who is without sin cast the first stone, right? Okay. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if James does any more videos responding to me. It sounded like he might, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. But yeah, hopefully you guys thought that this video was helpful in some way. If you're interested in helping me out, I do have a Patreon account linked down below in the description box. You can go there and donate if you want to. That's it for this video, guys. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and share it with other people. If you're interested in watching my future videos, please subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. And I will see you all in the next one. So have a good one, guys, and peace.